Okay, so I want to make things more clear here. Let's do that. See, earlier I told you that if you have to perform any action, like if you have to perform action on a web page, right? You have, like, it is a two-step process. You have to do two things. First is you need to identify that element, right? And after this, you will perform the action. Like what we did is we first identify our login button and then we click that button. So it is a two-step process, right? And we know that to identify an element, we use locators, right? We came to know that in the previous lecture as well. So this identification can also be broken down into two steps. This identification can also be broken down into two steps. What are those two steps? First is defining the search criteria. Okay. So this line number 16 is doing the same. We are defining the search criteria, that if we want to search an element using ID, or if we want to search an element using name locator, what type of locator I want to use to search an element. This is what defining search criteria means. And the second step is actually searching the element. Okay. This second step means actually searching the element. And this is what line number 17 is doing. This find element method is searching for the element locator, the search criteria that we have defined. It is searching using the ID locator. So this is something that I want to tell, and let's move ahead in the course and learn about other types of locator as well. So now it's time for us to master class name locator and name locator. So let's start learning about them one by one. So let's start with name locator. So there is nothing new to learn in this name locator. Why I'm saying this? Because in ID locator, we use this ID attribute to identify an element. Similarly, in name locator, we will use this name attribute to identify this element. Here, this login button has a value login button, which is actually same. So I will just simply copy paste it here, and I will just change the search criteria that I want to search using a name attribute, right? So this is it. And this is what you have to do when you're searching using name locator. You will look for this name attribute, and whatever the value it has, you will simply pass it in the dot name method. If you will run this piece of code, then you can see that we will still be able to click the login button. See, we are still able to click this login button. So there is nothing new to learn in this name attribute. Let's move with the class name attribute. Okay, so to search anything using class name locator, we need to look for this class attribute. Okay, in this class attribute, you can see that we have two classes. How can I tell that we have two classes? Because you can see that there is a space between these two words. One is submit button and other one is button action, right? I have space in between them. So this means that there are two classes. Suppose if I have one more space in that in this class attribute, and I will name it as item. So now we have three different classes: submit button, button action, and item. So whenever we are using this class attribute to search an element, we have to be very cautious that at a time we can only use a single class. So we have to define that which class we want to use. We cannot use and just simply copy paste this two classes recklessly from here and paste it here. This is not going to work, and we have to change here as class name. So what now you're doing, you're defining the search criteria that please use class name or locator to identify an element. Okay, let's go back to the topic. We cannot use two classes at same time to search an element. We can only pass one class in this class name function. So let's run this piece of code and see, are we able to identify the login button using class name locator. See, still we are able to click the login button. So there is nothing new to learn in this class name locator as well. The only new thing that we learn and is different from ID and name attribute is that whenever we are using this class name attribute to identify an element, we need to make sure that we only pass a single class. And how we can identify that? If two words have space between them, it means that that class attribute consists of multiple classes. So we have to avoid using those multiple classes. And rest is same as we do in ID and name locator. So far we have learned three types of locator. ID locator, which uses the ID attribute to uniquely identify an element. We have name locator that help us to identify an element using a name attribute. And then we have class name locator that help us to identify an element using class attribute.